What's a subtle sign that someone is very intelligent? When someone can admit a mistake and they know they don't know everything. I spent 40 plus years in manufacturing engineering and quality management. I can say from my experience from an individual contributor to a manager director, I have never seen any manager at any level find this to be either a weakness or a failure. In fact, people who own their mistakes straight up are some of the most highly respected individuals who go on to bigger and better positions. I don't know what your personal experience has been, but if your business environment is that shallow, I would definitely find another business. When they take the time to filter through any possible misunderstandings in an argument by asking questions to help them better understand the idea that's being presented, instead of immediately assuming their first interpretation of the argument is the correct one. Something that's always bugged me is when my argument gets misunderstood and then attacked from angles where supposed errors exist, when those errors rose out of the listener's own misinterpretation. They are okay with being perceived as stupid by asking questions. If we hold back in fear, we'll never truly learn. Plus, it's a good way to show others. It's okay to question things if you don't understand. Better off if we're on the same page instead of hoping things work out without being informed. They're very good at problem solving. Even if it's something they have no experience with, they always approach the problem from the right angle. I'll add on to this by saying they know when they don't know. And because of that, we'll take the opportunity to learn so that they do know, rather than continuing to bumblefuck their way through a problem, which sometimes is the right angle to start with by learning what is what first. The know-it-all pretenders will just continue slamming that square peg into a round hole until it fits. Then, the next time someone opens a control cabinet, it's a fucking mess of bodges, and sometimes even bypassed safeties. Edit, everyone keeps mentioning bumblefuck. I am not the OG on that. Credit to Av on YouTube. My freshman college roommate was a mechanical engineer. One of the first nights we were in the dorms, we had pizza delivered. We didn't eat it all, but the pizza box didn't fit inside the dorm fridge. He went all out origami and transformed the box into a smaller, perfectly square box that did fit inside the fridge. In about 12 seconds. I'm pretty good at math, but not necessarily geometry. My mind was blown. I spent 35 years in academia between my student-teacher years, and he's still one of the 3 smartest people I've ever met. His ability to just do it is dumbfounding to me. His retirement project is transforming his father's 1963 Mercedes convertible into a hybrid that has a small diesel engine that runs on vegetable oil along with a totaled Tesla Model S battery pack. Honestly, after reading their work, debates, talks, podcasts, discussions, arguing, etc., I noticed they often use conditions in their sentences that's not absolute. There's also this saying, only a fool talks in absolute. Take a use, I think, many times, oftentimes, usually it's possible, it could be if. So it appears they talk as if I can be wrong or based on what we know. If you compare sentences so known unintelligent people, they lack these conditions and voices absolutes only. I have met several off-the-charts intelligent people. One thing I noticed that they have in common was low self-esteem. They had an actual low self-esteem club at the science fiction club I belonged to. The guy who did a lot of the calculations that allowed the Voyager probes to make the grand tour of our solar system was a member of the club. All he could think about were what he didn't know, or what he physically couldn't do. The common issue I observed from these bright folks was relentless school bullying. We lose so many of these geniuses to depression, suicide, self-medication, or just flat-out self-inflicted mediocrity. Society in the US does a shitty job of nurturing intelligence. It makes me incredibly angry how many of these people's potential were wasted. I don't include myself in that club. My intelligence is dead average. Frank Zappa said it best when he said that intelligence is treated like a hideous deformity by American society. They get excited sharing their knowledge and talk to people instead of at them. This probably isn't a 100% guarantee that someone is intelligent, but it's something I've noticed more often in intelligent people than in people who are just knowledgeable. I have a friend who is a genius. One thing where it is very clear is when we were learning automation software, Siemens stuff, TIA Portal, etc., dude taught himself pretty much the entire program in 3 days just by using the inbuilt wiki. I had a friend who played tabletop RPGs with me online using a fairly clunky thing called OpenRPG. It had a really annoying interface that you clicked on an icon and then clicked where you wanted it to move to. He said, "This is annoying." The next time we played, he sent me a download link with an updated version of the software. He had never encountered the programming language Python before, but had managed to add drag and drop within a day or so. scary. Choosing not to argue with someone who's wrong and choosing their own peace of mind over being right. This is a good one. Whenever I see a thread on Reddit where it's just two people arguing back and forth for like 30 comments, my thinking is always, really, neither of you is going to change the other's mind. You're just getting worked up over some pointless argument on the internet. Reminds me of the quote, "Never argue with an idiot. They'll bring you down to their level and beat you with experience." I usually find that creativity, humor, and verbal acuity are good signs of intelligence. I generally see lack of empathy, low openness, and seeing the world in absolutes as signs of low intelligence. Also, I notice many socially inept people tend to consider themselves intelligent almost just because they're socially inept and/or not good at sports. It's as if their ego needs something to value themselves on, so they assume they must be smart. It's entirely possible that the other guy in your life who makes you insecure is taller, stronger, more charismatic, and smarter, such as life. Lastly, people, especially tech people, will often conflate technical domain knowledge with intelligence, which is absolutely not always the case. Yes, there is a bare minimum intelligence required to be an engineer, etc., but being an awkward senior engineer doesn't mean you're just too smart for normies to understand, and lack of a specific domain knowledge has fuck all to do with intelligence. I'm an engineer and would 100% agree. The smartest of my friends are those who are both technically skilled and have a great ability to empathize and emote. They are also the friends I exclusively do creative outputs with. On the other hand, I have colleagues who are far quicker with engineering problems, but with whom I would not be able to have a spiritual conversation, because they are simply more close-minded. Or they would not pick up on the nuance in a social situation and end up either making a fool of someone or themselves. Edit. In addition, as I have aged, I have now come to value emotional and social intelligence as more important than, or at the least equal to, technical prowess or knowledge. Having a well-rounded intelligence makes these types of people extremely easy to befriend, rely upon, and have stimulating and reciprocative conversation that encompasses all aspects of the human experience. You learn from one another. On the other hand, I find the more difficult it is to ascertain someone's feelings, motives, the more difficult it becomes to build a deeper relationship, even if we disagree on things. You must be able to develop meaningful relationships to share knowledge and wisdom constructively. Half of intelligence is critical, lateral thinking, and the other half is comprehension. You need to identify what you already know, determine what you need to know, and then how to get there. Identifying the path to knowledge requires you to be attentive and ask the important questions. There is a desired outcome. Whether or not you get there, you have intention which focuses your efforts. With this in mind, I find a subtle sign someone's is very intelligent is when they ask questions and either specify why they are asking or word the question in a way that shows intent. You can clearly tell where they are going with their questions, or if they happen to be asking irrelevant questions, you both figure it out much faster. It helps them get the information they want, but also helps the person answering understand their train of thought and focus their answers. I worked with a lad who was very like this. He could make any conversation really intriguing and thought-provoking, often causing people to reconsider their perspective and position. He was a HR manager that could diffuse any situation, helping people mend bridges and resolving issues because he could get both parties to compromise and put aside resentment. He had IQ and EQ to go a lot further than the role he was in, but he was happy, and maybe that is another little tidbit of intelligence. They understand that as you begin to learn more about a subject, you enter into this situation where you believe you know far more than you really do. You realize that you know so much more than those who know nothing about that subject, but not that everything you are learning probably has 100 types of nuance and requires deeper understanding. It's kind of related to the Dunning-Kruger effect. The less you know about a subject, the more you think you know, because you don't realize how much there is to know that you don't. It's how you can get people who spend a few minutes on YouTube or Google, spout a bit of lingo they just learned, and don't realize that there's a reason it takes 4 years just to get a bachelor's in most topics, and many more to become a specialist. It's infuriating to those who actually have put in the time of study and experience. So yeah, a person who can show that they have some knowledge of a topic, yet remain humble because they realize that there is always more to know. The more you learn about a topic, eventually you realize just how much more there is to know, and it's important to get through that initial arrogance. I fell into this myself when I was in my late teens. I became fairly well read on sustainable horticulture and botany in general. I got a job that was pretty advanced, and I was pretty good at it. Yet after a while I realized that my boss, He was like a fucking plant wizard. He could tell you what the weather was like at night a week ago by looking at the way the flowers presented on the tomatoes we grew. I learned some amazing shit from him once I got over my ego. People who ask for others' opinions regularly from a neutral perspective, as if the idea or thought is not their own, more of an open-ended question. Often smart people are very confident internally, but seek the opinions of others because they are conscious and aware of their own biases and flaws. In that same fashion, they usually also have the emotional intelligence to set aside their ego or take a loss if it ultimately results in a better future result or an important lesson learned. They listen and observe more than they talk and choose their battles wisely. And it is why more often than not, they come out ahead in most challenging situations they might find themselves in. These types of people. You never know how smart they are from their docile nature until someone ignorant, rude, or insulting challenges them on their competency. Then it's an intellectual slaughter. I feel like a lot of people here mix up raw intelligence with emotional intelligence and social skills or wisdom. My partner is gifted, and so is one of the kids, which is quite a thing to navigate in our education system. His strength is simply put a combination of excellent pattern recognition elevated by education. He's efficient in everything he does, and his immediate comprehension of complex problems is downright scary in a can he see through the matrix kind of way. He is still only human. He has crappy days and sometimes gets angry and talks like shit to people. He can't explain everything in simple terms, dumb it down, but there is no question he grasps the matter at hand. He isn't always intrigued by everything or curious. He doesn't have specific language he uses. He isn't always humble. He brags when he wins complex board games or in chess or simply counts cards as if it's nothing. When you ask him about something, he might just say, "I don't know why I get it." My brain just runs that way. Very intelligent people aren't always just excellent. They are just people. Since knowing him, I don't believe that there is signs of intelligence you can read from social behavior. All of that is learned, and while it might come easier to intelligent people, at the end of the day, you will only know if you see a demonstration of said intelligence. Because whoever you're trying to assess, they might just be well-adjusted, kind, or curious people. They are able to interpret information fast and differently. We were in an academy, people from all parts of the world. We were learning to use a specific, super sophisticated software. We all had detailed steps on how to go around a task in the software, but we all were getting it wrong. But this one 16-year-old Norwegian boy was way ahead of us all the time. He could decipher the information like he built the instructions. To this day, I can't figure out how quickly he adapted and learned everything. Was like a sponge that could grasp everything. I literally saw him code a whole new tool without having any prior knowledge in a week, just by reading resources on the internet. Good, decent guy, and a born genius. I don't even know how to define intelligence anymore. I'm pretty good at math. My wife has to use her fingers to add 5 plus 3. However, my wife can walk into a random kitchen, find a few random ingredients that seemingly wouldn't go together, and whip up an amazing dinner without using a recipe. I can't do that. I can cook, but I need to use a recipe or work from a small list of ingredients I'm comfortable with. I can't do what she does. She can't do what I do. How do I determine who is more intelligent? I can play the piano a little bit. I'm not great at it. I can sit at the keys and using sheet music and lots of practice, work my way through a relatively simple piece. Others can just sit at a piano and just play music. Let's take Dave Grohl, for example. I guarantee that I got higher standardized test scores than he did. I definitely did better in school. I have an advanced degree. I don't think Dave Grohl finished high school. But Dave Grohl taught himself a bunch of instruments, and without even being able to read music, was able to be the front man of one of the biggest rock groups of all time. He's also written a best-selling autobiography, and damn is it well written. Does my degree make me smarter than Dave Grohl? I doubt it. I think most people have their own strengths and weaknesses. When they're doing something that aligns with their strengths, they seem pretty freaking smart. When they do things that showcase their weaknesses, they can seem pretty freaking stupid. How they respond to being wrong. Over time, I have learned that really intelligent people love being wrong and shown better ways to do things. Knowledge is like a stamp collection to them. So when they rationally explain something to someone and someone is able to break down their idea and improve on it, to them, they just found a new best friend. If they do not respond with this, the search for knowledge is only about feeding the ego, not feeling dumb or needing to be viewed as an expert to make money. Highly intelligent people spend their lives searching for someone to make them feel dumb or knowledge that makes them feel like an idiot for holding on to a belief for so long. This is a very rare trait of a highly intelligent people, and there is a difference in someone who looks intelligent to many, but is actually intelligent amongst strong minds. The latter is what I am describing. Humility in their knowledge, And when I say that, I really mean three key things. First, a willingness to not be right. Second, a lack of judgment when someone else is wrong. And third, a willingness to sound dumb. You'll very often see people get something wrong, or something that isn't wrong but other people think it is, or say something that sounds dumb and then get shit on by other people for being wrong, and then something like fight or flight kicks in and they either double down or just leave. Social media is the worst for this because it's so easy to nitpick the smallest detail of something or invoke one of the scary logical fallacies on some rando. But the proper response when talking to someone should never be to put them down, and genuinely intelligent people are like this. Instead, they'll hand you the information you're missing so you can get to the right answer. It depends so much in reality. Intelligence manifests in so many different ways. High IQ is a kind of average number taken from several test scores from what are thought to be dimension of intelligence, memory, analytical thinking, problem solving, abstract reasoning, processing speed, verbal and linguistic ability, spatial visualization. Apparently, the intelligence profile is heavily variable within and among people, even very high IQ people. And each of these dimensions of intelligence can manifest very differently in different people or at different times of the same person's life. Not to speak how differently the entirety of the intelligence continuum manifests in different people, times, cultures, environments. So there's nothing definitive. However, there are certain behaviors that are dead giveaways. It's just that none of them are present in every intelligent person. It's interesting to get the scent that someone might be intelligent and then try and follow the trail if it's true. For example, someone might have absolutely huge vocabulary, but you never see them use it. Only way you know is they immediately recognize these words and are readily aware of their meanings. Someone whose strength lies in linguistic ability knows the type of vocabulary any given situation needs and won't throw around fancy words for nothing. But there's still plenty of similarly gifted people who make a living out of puking intelligent-looking speech and or writing. And not all very intelligent people have a way with words at all. Some people just can reduce the environment to abstract symbols and numbers, design a structure or something and successfully build it. But expressing themselves in writing is 5th grade level or so. Intelligent people aren't humbler, less stubborn, more morally aware, better at socializing, or more open-minded than the average person. Intelligence is a tool and plenty of dicks won the IQ lottery. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to see more.